There it is then, the title race guaranteed to go down to the final day. Arsenal are a point clear at the top. If City draw at Spurs, then Arsenal will go into the final day with the same points and a better goal difference. Villa need a win from their final two games to guarantee them fourth. Newcastle, Chelsea and Man United are battling it out for European places. And then at the bottom, Burnley have become the second team to be relegated after they lost at Tottenham. Luton's defeat at West Ham means they would need to win their final game against Fulham, hope Nottingham Forest lose at Burnley, and there would need to be a 12-goal swing in Luton's favour. Bournemouth lost to Brentford, that leaves them in 11th, but their manager Andoni Iraola has signed a new contract that will keep him at the club until 2026 after he's done a really impressive job there this season. What a weekend of action it has been. There is still one more game to go. That is the game between Aston Villa and Liverpool. Julien Laurent is here. Sean Wright-Phillips is here. But luckily for us, two righties don't make a wrong. So we're all good to go. Yeah. And there have been so many celebrations. I know there's a couple of sad stories with Burnley and with Luton this weekend. But there have been so many celebrations and some really good ones, although Michael Olise couldn't have been less impressed with his own goal, which was a brilliant goal, yet again from him. Only man in the stadium, not bothered. Not bothered at all by that.
Good, that.
He just doesn't celebrate.
What is it? Why is he angry?
Apparently he celebrates in training, but not in the game itself. And then Callum Hudson-Odoi obviously scoring against Chelsea so he doesn't... He doesn't celebrate. His 100th Premier League appearance, 72 of them were with Chelsea, so he didn't scoring.
Wow, what a good
didn't
goal
celebrate scoring against his old club. Dominic Solanke, however, had this ready to go.
Yes,
that's a great.
It's an anime thing.
Yeah, Naruto.
Naruto.
Yeah,
Naruto.
Yeah, Naruto.
Thank you for that. And David Moyes celebrating at the London Stadium. Bubbles in the background on his final game in charge of West Ham at the London Stadium. And Noel Gallagher not taking part in the Poznan. Do you know why?
No.
Because he won't look back in anger. And then, of course, Arsenal, who have been accused of over-celebrating at times this season, in the rain at Old Trafford with that win that takes the title race down to the final day. I mean, it was drenched, but sometimes those moments can be iconic. Come the end of the season, if Arsenal win it, that's going to be one of those pictures that's in the full end of season montage where they're celebrating in torrential rain at Old Trafford, because they might, they might win it.
Yeah, they obviously it's brilliant that Arsenal have been able to take it down to the last day with the City. That's why I was trying to congratulate Sean. Well done, City.
I'm not shaking your hand.
Well, good, great win. Well done.
No, I'm not doing it.
You know something? It's brilliant. It's brilliant for Mikel. It's brilliant for the boys that they've done it. Especially after last season, when everybody said that they couldn't quite get it done. They've added to that squad and they've gone all the way with a team that if they do it, City, then you probably have to say they are the best team ever in the Premier League. Because they're in imperious form at the moment. Imperious form.
They are. And Arsenal, even though they got the win against Manchester United, they look like a team who were at the end of back-to-back, long, arduous Premier League campaigns.
Yeah, for me, it's inevitable that it will take its toll on you, whether it's physically. But I think that the hardest part is the mental side of it. When you go that hard as they did last year and then miss out the way they did, and they're in a similar position now, it's going to wear on you. And I felt like after the first 15 minutes, you could see that in the way Arsenal played, that it wasn't the Arsenal we're used to seeing, where they can put teams away. They kind of got their goal and said, well, we know you can't score past us, sort of thing, and just made sure they got that result. And sometimes that's what you need to do as a team. If you know you're not playing well, you have to be able to find a way to win. And that's the difference, I think, this year between that Arsenal team.
And it goes down to the final day. Obviously, the most famous game on the final day was the one that you were involved in. 12 years ago today, when Sergio Aguero got that winner for Manchester City. Obviously, you were playing for QPR at the
There he is on the edge of the box there, look.
Not doing much. He's not doing much.
He could have stopped Aguero, but because he's such a City fan...
Don't start those conspiracy theories.
No, I actually thought someone would get it. Like, I thought Nadum was going to get a touch on it, but he doesn't, and Mario obviously moves it a different direction, and after that, once it gets to Aguero, you're like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing to watch.
It was just absolutely incredible and one of those fantastic moments. And the thing is, it was that real late turnaround as well, because right up until those final seconds, as we know, Manchester United had it in their hands. But there have been moments like that on the final day when it's done that before, when it's been, you know, in one team's hands and they've lost out on it, and then they've, you know, I'm thinking to the Blackburn title-winning season where they lost against Liverpool when it went down to the last season. Obviously, Arsenal won it at Anfield on the final day of the season. It's happened before. It just feels like this time around with this City team and the form that they show at the end of the season, it's uphill for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it is. That's why we're congratulating.
Yeah.
Well done.
So much.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
2 years ago, City had to beat Villa at home. Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa, by the way, where Liverpool were hoping for something, maybe also had to win. And City won in the last 15 minutes, scoring 3 goals in 5 minutes to make it 3-2 and to win it again. So they've been there before. Even if it goes to that last time when Arsenal will be playing Everton, they've been there before. When for Arsenal and this very young team and a young manager in the job, it would be a brand new world, really, which I think if you haven't been there, could feel the nerves. And even I thought yesterday, at Old Trafford, there was a bit of nervosity in this Arsenal team. Even at 1-0, yes, they controlled well and were never really in danger, but you could feel the nerves.
Which is understandable for this team, again, in respect of their maturity now emotionally, because, again, we made joke of it in the intro, but, you know, Spurs, they need to get something out of that game for Arsenal. I'm not saying they need to do it for Arsenal, but a draw, then we can talk about the last day scenario. So it's really hard to get past thinking of the unbelievable scenario at the end of the season with the last game, because you know that Spurs are going to have to draw at least. And you're looking at, like I say, City and the way they're playing. They were like against Fulham for a little while. I thought, oh, Fulham, they're trying, and then bam, it just boom, boom, it was over. You know, that's how good they are.
But for those of us who are neutral, this is what we wanted, the title race to go down to the final day. Let's hear from both managers, starting with Pep Guardiola.
The great players enjoy to play with a great pressure, and this group of players for many years have done it. So we are in the last stages. We have the final. So our dream is, we talked a few years ago to when they lost against Aston Villa and our destiny is in our hands. We decided, okay, the dream has arrived. The last game against West Ham at home, the destiny, belonging to us.
So they want to really knock that door and open that box of dreams to live the last and the final day of the season in front of our people with the opportunity to win the Premier League. And that's something that we're going to live together. And I'm so pleased that we're going to do it with these players and staff.
What a turn of phrase that is. We've opened up a box of dreams for our supporters. The thing is, it's always the hope that kills you.
Well, it is, Kels, but again, the Arsenal fans, from what they went through last season, and then to get to the point where it's all meant to go awry. And let's face it, with the Bayern Munich and Villa games, people were saying, oh, here we go. But then from there, like I say, the maturity and the professionalism they've shown, and even the game against Man United yesterday, it was a bit nervy, but again, they got through that because the main thing was the result. So there's a lot of things to take from this team, because you probably have to start the season believing that you've got to get 90 points with this City side. You can't really drop too many points, and there's no way Arsenal fans are expecting us not to drop points. But I think the games against West Ham and Fulham were games where they weren't expecting it to happen. But I think the Villa game was the one where it really kind of came home to us that you just can't drop points at home, especially with this City side, because when they get into this mode, they do kind of see it off. But like I say, we'll have to see how it ends up. I still feel, I've been feeling for ages, that there's a twist, and I'm running out of games.
The game that's coming up, the Tuesday night game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, between Spurs and Manchester City, is really, but that feels like that's the one that people have been building up to as a potential twist. Now, look, Tottenham are not in, I know they got the win at the weekend, but they're not in good form at the moment. They do have a really good record against Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, though. Is there not a nervousness, because you'd be right as a Manchester City fan to have belief in this City team, but is there a question mark, do you think?
Honestly, every City fan that you speak to will be nervous about this game based on literally what you just said. But I've seen the games, I've been at the games at that place when they've played, and they've played well and they've dominated the game. And then sometimes it'll be 2-0, 3-0, 1-0. And Harry Kane will just work wonders and and make things happen. I think that, for me, is the biggest difference in this game now, is that Harry Kane isn't playing for them, who can turn the game on the head at any given time. And we know Spurs are going to give us chances. With that high line, I think without Doggy in the back playing that inverted midfield role and drifting into those foreign places, I think that they, in many ways, they've come unstuck and they're relying on Van der Ven so much just to clear up a lot of messes.
Yeah, but also the fact that they got that win in the FA Cup as well at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Do you think that kind of puts it to bed for City players, if there was even going to be a glimmer of doubt in their minds?
Honestly, I really, really hope so. But because even if you look in the game, we still missed like chances that we created apart from that corner. Yeah. We still had good chances to take, like we have in every other game. But this one corner, we managed to get it over the line. So I think the key part is, we need to start the game quick and try and get on that front foot and put Chelsea in a position in a lot of ways Burnley did, because I thought Burnley played really well against them. They just didn't get the result they needed.
Yeah, well, Burnley would say that that's happened a lot this season, that they've put in performances that haven't maybe got the results that they will feel that they deserved. But Tottenham are going to try and do it against Manchester City. It's quite easy to make the case for City to get the victory there, despite that run of form at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Is there a case to be made for Tottenham taking something from this game, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if Villa don't beat Liverpool on Monday night, so tonight, they will still have a chance, even if it's unlikely, to make that top four and qualify for the Champions League.
Particularly given Villa have to go to Palace on the final day of the season and Tottenham have got Sheffield United.
Exactly. So you think, they would go for it. If Villa win against Liverpool on Monday night, I don't think there will be any motivation Spurs-wise. And if you're a Spurs fan in the stand, you would surely not applaud a goal from your team that would favour Arsenal. I think this is why this scenario is the most incredible ever, because the biggest rival of Arsenal can actually give them a massive chance to win the title, which every Spurs fan would absolutely hate. So this is why it's so good. I just don't see this Spurs team being able to trouble City too much. What City have been so impressive in the last few games is to score very early. 13th minute at the weekend against Fulham, 12th minute against Wolves, 2 minutes against Luton, 17 against Brighton, to just ease all those nerves that we mentioned before, control those emotions, and then once they're in the lead, usually they don't give it back.
You know what people say about Spurs? It would be an unbelievably Spursy thing for them to beat them by accident.
That's why it's not
for Spurs to beat Manchester City by accident.
But by the definition of Spursy, and what we mean by Spursy, it would be very Spursy to beat Manchester City and not qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah.
That would be kind of Spursy in a sort of classic sense.
That would probably be the greatest outcome for me. but City are too good.
And then lose to Sheffield United on the final day in order to do that.
Too good.
But that's the thing, is that Manchester City will, anybody who's not emotionally invested in the game will be expecting Manchester City to go on and win that one, and it will go down to the final day. Is there any chance, do you think, that Spurs can take something from that game?
Well, you have to hope, innit, Kels, because like Julian said there, depending on what happens with Villa, if Villa don't beat Liverpool, then there is something in it for Spurs, especially a season that's been so up and down for them. There's had a lot of injuries to key players. For them to find themselves at this stage of the season still being able to qualify for top four with a new manager, losing Harry Kane at the start of the season, started very well, kind of dipped through the middle, and then they could finish on an unbelievable high if they can get into the Champions League. So there is something there for Spurs, and as a professional, that's what they're probably looking at. I know that Andrew will be looking at. The fans saying things like, I'd hate for us to do it, but the players are not thinking about that deep down. That's not what's bothering them more. What's bothering them is not getting into the Champions League qualifying places when they've got a chance.
Do you know what? I was just thinking about City and that run to the end of the season, that Pep Guardiola has always, since his Barcelona days, trained his players to be fit season. So they are super intense, and that they're all ideally at sort of peak fitness for this stage of the season. But there's also always an individual that comes good. I think a couple of seasons ago it was Ilkay Gundogan who came through with all the goals. Yeah. And this season it seems to be Josko Gvardiol, who's suddenly, out of nowhere, is a goal-scoring machine. How's that happened? Really? Yeah, how's that happened?
I don't know. Like, I went to the Champions League game at the Bernabeu, and I was on the pitch side and I was watching them do shooting. He was the only defender doing the shooting with some of the attackers. And I said to one of my mates, he actually strikes the ball so cleanly for a fullback on both feet. And I remember his goal going in, and I was by the City analyst, and one of them jumped up and said, "See, I told you he's right-footed." but he's actually not. He's left-footed,
Yeah.
but he hits the ball so clean with
Yeah.
both feet that he's just quality in those areas. But I think Phil Foden, man, I think he's the one for me that has stepped up at this time the most in hindsight, taken like what Gundogan did. I think Phil Foden's the guy, and might not have scored in every game, but when he has played, he's made a lot of things happen to help everybody else get in those positions to score those goals.
Yeah, he has just been phenomenal all season, Phil Foden, and the fact that he's been able to do it with the return of Kevin De Bruyne as well, rather than instead like De Bruyne coming in place of him, he's been able to do it alongside him. Gvardiol, though, in this form at this stage of the season, was almost the first Premier League defender to score a hat-trick if they'd let him
Really
take the
wanted-
penalty.
I know, he really wanted that pen, didn't he? And then they went like, nah, Alvarez is the penalty taker.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. We saw the Van de Ven goal for Spurs. We were mentioning with Shoney, who turned onto his left foot to hit it like that. When Gvardiol goes with his right foot, which you should be doing because it's on your right foot, to show how confident he is on 2 feet. Obviously, when you score a top corner strike like that against Real Madrid with your right foot, you get confident. Amazing. And also in that game against Fulham, everything seems to be quite narrow from City, apart from Gvardiol, who had all that space and freedom on that left-hand side, almost as a winger, left-back, left centre-back, left midfielder, everything, which I think is pretty crazy.
You know what was good about those two finishes from two defenders, which was really surprising, is that the misses that you see this season from forwards. And when you look at those two defenders, in both of those incidents with those finishes, Kels, there's a little bit of feet to be moved and stuff to be done, and techniques to be used. Gvardiol's one was brilliant because he had a little touch, then finished it. Because the goalkeeper, when you're going across, when you move it, as you know, the goalkeeper has to move with you. So then you have to go across to come back across him, so as he's got to change his direction. And that's why that touch was so quick, bang. And the same with Van de Ven's one. Again, this one's coming across and he's moved his body so as he can hit it with his left foot back where it was coming from. Two really technical finishes from defenders where you see some strikers this season, you think, you know, the calmness of those two guys, and when you look at some of the misses of the strikers, again, that was real top quality from both of them.
The player, I think, for Arsenal, and it's not necessarily just been at this stage of the season, but the player who's weighed in with key goals at crucial moments has to be Leandro Trossard, who scored again at the weekend. He just seems to have this knack of scoring, not just scoring goals, but scoring important goals.
Yeah, I think what he's done is really I think he's kind of cemented the place. We know what Martinelli's about, you know, with the pace and the directness of what he's doing, but I think that what Trossard has showed with the control and the defensive work he does, the inverting and the finishing, he's bringing so much, Kels. This is why you probably look at someone like Martinelli now and you think, you know what, Martinelli, he's got something for us. But now what is certain, you're going to have to upskill a bit. You have to do you have to do more when you could come in, you can defend, not just like come on and for 20 minutes and you go at players. He's going to need to upskill now because I think all of the Arsenal players, especially Mika, he loves these multi-positional players what can play everywhere. And that is how you're going to get into this team. And I think Trossard is a perfect example of someone scored a lot of goals off the bench. Never heard him complain about not playing when he maybe should have been starting. And then what he's done, Kels, is that the way he's played, he's put himself in there with his output and his goals. He's done brilliant. It's been a great season.
But it's not even been the case that people were necessarily calling for him to start. There was a sort of perception of him as a super sub, that he was a player that you could bring on and he would cause trouble with tired defenders, maybe was the argument. And he's been the one who's proved that wrong when he's been given the opportunity.
And I think it's quite amazing to even for your own mindset when you play, to go from an impact sub. So you know at the start of the game, you're not going to, you'll have to wait 70 minutes to come on. So you go and you warm up a little bit, you go back on the bench, then you go to warm up again, and then you feel ready. It's very different when you approach it than starting from the start and have an impact straight away. And I think he's done that brilliantly. Very intelligent player, very versatile, like Righty just said. You can rely on him, he defends, he plays with a lot of heart, and things are just going his way as well. And Martinelli's average form, let's put it that way, has also helped Trossard to say, you know what, I feel confident now. Even if Martinelli comes back to a good level, I'm still the right guy for that kind of left-hand side position.
Yeah. I think what he brings to that team is control. I think when Arteta's come from Pep, he's used to having a lot of control of the ball. I think if Martinelli plays there, it's more direct, a bit like Doku. If Jack's fitter, Jack normally plays, especially in the bigger games, because he knows under pressure he can retain possession of the ball or he can do a trick. But Trossard's got goals on top of what he does, plus he sees passes. So he's basically, in hindsight, a complete player to play in all three of those positions. And for me, I was one of those people that said when Kai came, I was the first person to say, well, why are you getting Kai when you got Trossard? But now somehow Arteta's got them both to play and play very, very well.
Yeah, playing in the same team and doing brilliantly for Arsenal at the moment. And as much as we talk about the difference between City throughout the seasons and how well they perform towards the end of the season, Arsenal are doing just as well. They are matching them and, in fact, have a better record in terms of winning games than they have. The only game that they drew was the one against Manchester City, and that's the only defeat between both of those sides in 34 games in 2024, and Arsenal edge it by a point. So look, it looks as though Arsenal couldn't have done, certainly at this stage of the season, they couldn't have done any more. Do you look back and see that missed opportunity when City were over at the World? I always get the words the wrong way. The Club World Cup. Well, I could say them in any order, those three words. But the Club World Cup, I still got the Club World Cup. When they're over at that, was that the opportunity missed for Arsenal, do you think, in hindsight?
Well, yeah, but Kels, you can go back now, and if it doesn't happen, and even if it is on goal difference, you could go back to any of those and say that's the game, because that's where you've dropped points and that's where City weren't playing and you could have got an advantage. But I think that what I take from it is how perfect you have to be, because you look at those numbers what Arsenal put up. I'm not sure, Kels, that Arsenal can do any more than they're doing at the moment. Of course, those games you don't want to lose, but like you're talking about going into a season where you're trying to go unbeaten. You've got to try and get 90 points because City are so relentless. And when you look at those numbers what Arsenal have got there, in probably win the league in different years, but like this is the level now, and so it's so hard. And this is why, again, the Arsenal players and Mikel, they've got to get credit for taking it to the last day, and it still may happen for them. But remember, there's years to come. They've still got years to challenge this. So, like we saw with Liverpool. So we'll see how this pans out for Arsenal, because they're still very early in this chase and they're doing very well.
That percentage looks a lot more comfortable for Arsenal than maybe it feels when you look at the remaining fixtures. And it probably is because they're factoring in the fact that that City have got 2 games to come, and because of their record at Spurs. But you still look at that and think, it's in Manchester City's hands with 2 games left to go, and they're still giving Arsenal a really decent chance, and almost 50% chance of winning it. There's not much in it at all as far as they're concerned. No, it doesn't feel that way.
No, it's true. It's true. And we haven't had a moment like a Kompany's shot against Leicester, for example, like a defining moment in this season, because those two have been so good, so superior to anybody else. Liverpool competed for a bit and then obviously phased out a little bit, but those two have been outstanding. And I think it would be cruel on this young Arsenal team and on Mikel not to win it. But sometimes you just have to accept that there's one incredible team that somehow, even if you took 4 points off them this season, is still better than you.
You know, if City draw against Tottenham and they would have to win heavily against West Ham at home on the last day of the season, you know, it could go down to goal difference again.
Yeah, like in 2012.
I just think it's going to be great next
really
weekend.
This is what I'm praying that it can go down to that, because like just the butterflies you feel as a fan, for that to happen, it's just like the excitement, you know what I mean? The anticipation.
There is plenty of anticipation, and there's still plenty to play for elsewhere in the Premier League table, because the race for Europe
certainly is. As I said to you earlier, 27 Premier League wins, more than any other Arsenal team in the Premier League era, more than the Invincibles, and it still might not be enough to win the league. But do you think Tuesday, ironically, Tottenham is the most likely when you look at West Ham at the Etihad for Manchester City? Is it all on Tuesday now?
I just look at a Man City side that they've not lost this year. Was it 33 wins? You know, I still can't understand how Rodri's not in the Player of the Year, but the fact is that we're trying to ask a team like Tottenham, who have been so up and down, so open, to stop a Manchester City. You know, I can't get carried away with hoping that something happens.
They haven't got a single Premier League point or goal in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Well, this is when we find out. You know, you can hang your hope on that, obviously, but like this is where we find out, because City are in a frame of mind where they know this is it. They can't lose this game if it comes down. City knows that they can't do anything other than try and get a draw out of this game. They can't even get a draw out of this game. They've got to win the game.
Got to win the game.
But they've never played Tottenham in the title race. They've never played at this time at the Tottenham Stadium.
No.
And I think that plays into it. This is where they are the best. They build up, like Sir Alex used to say, it starts at Easter. They've built up to that, they're thereabouts, and then they're just relentless. They've done it for years, you know. When the Liverpool race last season, you know. Was it 94 points?
Season before.
I mean,
93.
Yeah, 14 consecutive wins. It's just what they do.
So tough.
I don't think Tottenham can win that game.
You have to. If Tottenham win that game, then it will be something that nobody will be expecting. And of course, we're all hoping that can happen because, you know, I think Arsenal have done brilliantly to get to this stage of the season. Coming off of last season, they've learned a lot from it, and you can see how well the players are playing. But again, we're chasing down a team that's going to probably, if they do it, they will be the best team. You have to say they're the best team in the Premier League era because they've done it 4 times. Not even the great Man United sides, they've done it 3. But this is a team what they're trying to chase, and it's tough. The bar is high, but they've done magnificent, and they've just got to keep going.
And as I said, there's so many subplots here. We're going to watch Villa-Liverpool tomorrow here. If Villa lose that, then that makes that game more difficult for City because then Spurs think, wow, we can win against Sheffield United and finish 4th.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this season, isn't it? We always wanted it as a neutral to go down to the wire. Relegation is looking like it's sorted, but European football is not. And, of course, the big one, the title, is not either. So we're still hoping it goes down to the last day. And whoever wins will be absolute deserving of the title because 2 teams that are absolutely incredible, not much between them at all. But Manchester City, I agree with the lads, I've said it all season, they've just got gears, and as soon as they start needing to win in the last 2 months of the season, we've seen it before. It's they're a hard team to stop.
So you just think 2 wins for City?
I'm starting to believe that both teams will just win all their games now. They're in the zone. They're in the title-winning zone, and I don't think there's going to be a slip-up.
But all Arsenal can do, again, they've got 1 game to go. Whatever happens on Tuesday, is just win the game and just see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's what they had to go. Like, today was could have been a really tricky one for them, and I think that there was a little bit of nervousness. You heard Mikel Arteta say that we didn't progress the ball and do what he wanted to do, because that's just nerves. But, like, you have to feel that at home against Everton, knowing the last game of the season, depending on what City do, they're just going to do what they've been doing and winning games and getting it done. Because that's what they've got to do now, because that's what City will do. They'll just get it done. They'll try and get it done.
Yeah. Well, it's all on Tuesday.
And there's nothing worse, absolutely nothing worse, with not getting it done, and then done it, you would have won it. Yeah. And I've experienced that once.
So was Michael. Don't remind him.
Yeah. Oh, my God, it's the worst feeling ever. we did beat West Ham.
Yes, I remember.
Oh my God,
the 2-2.
Yeah. And it was 0-0, wasn't it?
Was that a 0-0?
2-2.
2-2. It was 2-2, mate.
And we won't even mention.
By the way, it was a good thing the game finished when it did, because you probably just saw that last shot there when Garnacho hit it wide, how much it was raining. It was chucking it down by the end, and Old Trafford needs a refit. We all do. And it was pouring off, wasn't it? It was running down the...
Game would have been abandoned.
Chris Foy, who's gone home because he's got nothing to do, Chris said it would have been abandoned. The ball would not have been able to roll. Yeah. Goodness knows when they would have fitted that in. Right, come on then, let's have a bit of fun. Tottenham to do Arsenal a favour. That's what everybody wants. The league wants somebody else to win it.
Are you now a Tottenham fan? Well, you are, because I've seen you singing upstairs Tottenham songs.
I'll take Glenn Hodler text.
Let me tell you, right, when I was growing up, we was red or white in North London. My dad, all of a sudden, for the first time ever, is a Tottenham fan. And he wants to go to the game and
he wants to go, does he?
And this is incredible. I mean, I can't tell you how incredible this is, but there will be no Tottenham fans in that stadium who want Tottenham to win. And it's strange because Tottenham still have their own prize to go for.
Completely. Particularly if Liverpool were to win tomorrow night against Villa.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Yeah. I just think it'd be very difficult. But like you mentioned that game when we went to Old Trafford, Les Ferdinand scored for us, you know, and it looked like we've done Arsenal a favour by beating Man United. Well, we scored very early. And the Tottenham fans who travelled always travel well in their numbers. None of them celebrated. The whole ground went quiet. It was the first and only time Les Ferdinand scored at Old Trafford, and no one celebrated.
What's the atmosphere going to be like then? Eerie?
It will be very eerie. Yeah. Listen, there'll be little sections who don't really understand and they just want their team to win at all costs. But it will be strange.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing, isn't it?
It'll be brilliant. I want to see Dad Sherwood with a Tottenham shirt with Sherwood on the back.
So you could see he's the only one.
He's the only one.
You could see 60,000 fans cheer when Man City score.
This is how it should be, football. In all seriousness, you know, football is so tribal. I completely get it. No Tottenham fan wants Tottenham.
It would be the same.
But the Tottenham players, Tim, some of them are playing for their futures here. They've got to ignore that.
Like we was.
Yeah, exactly.
We never give a fault in that dressing room.
No.
No one ever mentioned we could do Arsenal a favour here. We just wanted to win that football match to beat Man United. We knew it was a huge game. The eyes of the world are on it, as they will be on Tuesday night. And it's really important that they play. And they want to be at that great club at Tottenham. They want to play for their futures. They want to impress fans.
That's the sort of game. Yes, that's the sort of game you play for the name on the back of your shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing for yourself.
Absolutely. You convince Ange Postecoglou, who has talked about a big churn this summer. I'm not going to be in that churn. I'm staying here next season and playing some sort of European football. Yeah. But no one in the Tottenham stands will be cheering a Tottenham goal. He's not the only person connected with Arsenal who is suddenly finding a love for Tottenham. Tim Sherwood. This is the first time since 98-99, when Tim played on the final day for Tottenham against Manchester United, that Arsenal have taken it to the last day of the season, when they won it in 02 and 04. It was already wrapped up by then. Manchester, just a couple of stats for you. Manchester United have lost 19 games in all competitions, which is the most for 45 years. Arsenal have now won more games in a season since 1970-71, when they won the old First Division title. So they've won more games than the Invincibles did, and any of Arsene Wenger's teams. They've won 27 games this season. That was quite an average game. Do you think Arsenal approached it the right way? Because Liverpool, we talked about this on an eye off air, got involved in a bit of a chaotic game with Manchester United. I think Arsenal were worried about leaving gaps if it were that sort of match.
Yeah, I think it was important to score, obviously. Once they go ahead, I think it completely changed his mindset. You know, I think Mikel was adapted recently in the last couple of seasons. I think he used to be hell-bent on, no, we need to control the game at all costs. But he's evolving as a manager. He's absolutely outstanding at the moment. And what he's done is decided, you know, we have something, we'll protect it. They haven't got too many threats. I think it was a lack of respect, really, for Man United, because he knows they're not going to go open up. They have a few moments, but if we can keep them out there, and just when it needs to be kicked, we'll kick it. Saliba, Gabriel, outstanding. Even Tomiyasu and Ben White, quality. In front, you know, Odegaard wasn't playing in their final third. He was, you know, in there with Declan, you know, and just patrolling and breaking the game up. They've really frustrated Man United, and they just never had the quality to break them down. So I think the manager's turned the page over, I really do. I think he's learnt from last year. There's no accusation levelled at them of bottling it this year. They took it to the last game.
You can't have bottled it if you take it to the last day.
It's just a shame they're up against the juggernaut of a team in Man City, but magnificent Arsenal, and I enjoyed that performance today, I really did. As a coach, when you look at it, you think, OK, wasn't spectacular, wasn't the most entertaining game for the neutral.
Didn't need to be, did it?
But they got the job done. They're efficient now, Don. Yeah. They get the job done. They know how to get over the line. It's just a shame that it might be very difficult for them to win the league because of Man City.
You were a little bit more nervy than I was. But watching the game,
1-0's one. I mean, the point is that one goal ahead, you can have a refereeing decision, a deflection, a set piece, a corner, or whatever. Yeah. So, but there is an element of danger still, isn't there?
There is, but I got the impression watching Man United today, they could have been there for 3 hours. They wouldn't have scored. They haven't got any goal scorers on the pitch, and Arsenal were in that sort of state of mind where they thought, if we really push for the second goal, which is what we want and what the club wants and what the fans want, it can be chaotic. And that's where then Man United could try and hit you on the counter with Garnacho because of his pace. They wanted Arsenal to come out and really go at it.
And therefore leave spaces that they might be able to...
So as a player, where Tim's saying they're professional and patrolling, what you do is you just say to the opposition, you're going to have to do something spectacular to beat us, because Declan Rice, I guarantee you, Mark, it would have been one of them games where when the players got in afterwards, it would have been a relief, obviously, because of the scoreline and the win. Mentally, it would have been difficult because he got over the line. But physically, I bet you some of them players, Arsenal players, would have thought, could play another match. Because it wasn't hard for them. It wasn't difficult because they had Man United that way. And they thought, we're not going to open up. That's the last thing we're going to do. If we've got to beat you 1-0, we'll beat you 1-0. There wasn't probably one single Arsenal player, apart from Saliba, that was outstanding. No. The rest of them were just doing their job, ultra-professional.
Rest defence. That's what it was. It was like they were in the holes, they were good distances apart. There wasn't gaping holes where they get exploited. There was no room in behind for Garnacho.
Not getting done on transition. All
they
that
know
stuff.
Højlund's not going to hurt them. No. They know they haven't got the ability in tight areas. There's no Bruno there today to do anything. Set pieces, you know, they're one of the biggest teams in the league. Very organised, so there's not going to be hurt like that. I think we need to give a special mention with the goalkeeper as well, Raya. I mean, he's part of that back five. And I think he really helped him out with crosses today. Not necessarily the high ones to come over, but the low ones, if they do get in behind, he reads them very well and he cleans everything up and he kills the game. You know, he got booked late on, but that's all right.
Even the small,
that's no problem.
even the small things as well, where probably this time last year, Arteta was probably jumping out of his technical area, desperate for the win, showing all, you know, giving it all out, which makes, and then that transmits to the players. Today, he would have been fluttering inside because it's all about the win. But he looked calm. That's where I think Tim's saying, like, he's learned a lot from last season.
Well, they're getting better every season. Just will it be enough? Let's have a look at the goal. There was a lot of chat about Casemiro after the Crystal Palace game. And this is quite difficult to watch, this, isn't it?
It's
As
lazy.
a man who's been as brilliant as him, not to sprint out, Don.
It's
Simple
lazy.
as that.
It's lazy, Mark. That's all it is.
So he's played Havertz onside by not sprinting out.
He doesn't even do too well from the cross. And I think if you're Wan-Bissaka as well, this is where he's got to really bust the gut now. Go on, go and sprint. You're only talking 5 yards to get level with Havertz.
He knows Havertz is there. He'll be seeing him peripherally.
And Havertz knows he's there.
Yes,
because he's
Havertz had a look.
But that's where he should be, probably a yard deeper. But play in that position, and then Havertz is offside. The whole move's killed. It's dead.
But he compounds it, doesn't he?
Yeah, but then I even think Wan-Bissaka, you've got to check your shoulders and look where Trossard. You must smell as a player. We're always checking our shoulders. You must smell and you must see that yellow shirt, that bright yellow shirt. You must smell that danger. Great run from Trossard. That's what makes the goal. But it's Havertz being onside and Casemiro being lazy, not putting the effort in to play him offside. It's so simple.
I think it's really good play from Havertz as well, because he sees where Casemiro is. He doesn't want to go too far towards the halfway line. No need, because he knows he's strolling out of there. So he just keeps himself just onside. But then when he picks the ball up, he hasn't got far to go to the byline. I don't like to be critical of Onana because I think he's had a decent season. He's one of the positives what have come out of Man United season. But Raya would have took that cross. He would have read that cross. He would have been pouncing on it. He would have helped the defenders. I agree. Wan-Bissaka's got to do better. So has Casemiro. Comedy of errors from Man United. Looked from there on that they would go on and take the game away from United, but didn't work out like that. Not because Man United were so good, it's because Arsenal just protected. This sort of performance is like the Invincibles used to do. It was almost like, we've got a game won, we don't need to win it again. Yeah. And that's exactly what they did. That reminded me of that great team, what Arsenal had in that Invincible season.
What about Garnacho then? Because he's been a bright spark this season. It was really interesting watching the game with you. Tell everybody what you were saying to me in terms of when you have that much pace, sometimes you need to slow yourself.
Yeah, I'm not going to criticise him too much because the young kid's been brilliant and he's played so many minutes this season. But what he's got to try and find in his game is that intelligence when to slow down.
Yeah.
If you think of Adama Traore, who's one of the quickest in the Premier League, he runs at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Garnacho's starting to do the same thing. He runs as fast as he can. And then he either gets knocked off balance or he's getting crowded out 2v1s. Sometimes you've got to slow down, find another red shirt, just pop it off. You can't take everyone on all of the time.
And here, take it on. You
take another couple of yards.
Yeah.
No one's closing
That was actually almost the best chance, wasn't it?
Right, then once he gets away, this is the very few times Arsenal allowed him to get in behind, but then find a red shirt.
So good. Saliba, so good.
Again, I'm not criticising him because he's a young kid that's going to get so much better. But look, it's 100 miles an hour. It's fast. He's electric.
Yeah.
But look, he's losing his balance.
Yeah. Do you know what he wants, Don? I mean, I agree. I think he's got a lot of development to do. Hopefully they keep holding, which they do. He's been a positive this year. But the Arsenal defenders hardly ever go to ground.
You wouldn't dive
on
in,
their
would
feet.
you?
Yeah. You don't dive in because the boy wants you to. Because he takes any touch. He goes to ground far too easy. But like there, he's looking for a foul there. It's not a foul. He's just nudging him off the ball. It's clever defending. But they don't go to ground. They're taught how to defend. That is what Mikel wants. He wants composure in the defending as well as when they're controlling the football. Brilliant, Arsenal.